Hi ladies, Dionysia here. I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to take a few minutes with you today to share some thoughts that I've been having that might be pertinent to you. I, as many of you know, have recently returned from leading a pilgrimage in Greece, a group of women who came to Greece to have an empowerment journey and a transformational journey with the other women involved. And our pilgrimage began in Athens. We began with Athena and working with Athena as an archetype, and then we flew to Crete, or Crete, my beloved island there, beloved to so many who visited there, both as a holiday vacation spot and also as a powerful, potent spot of ancient woman as priestess, and times when we really thrived as spiritual leaders in the world. And we went there to the palace of Knossos, where the snake goddess was found and all of her worship and what that is. And then we went and gathered with about 100 other, we were about 100 all total, other people from around the world, mostly women, some men too, to be in ceremony for a week on that ancient land. And we did a lot of ceremonies for honoring that ancient land and the goddess as she was worshipped there, as well as really exploring together who are we in these times and what is our role in the world as a spiritual woman. And that's what I thought I would talk with you about today and share a little bit about that with you, especially in turbulent times like so many of us are experiencing on the planet right now. And we don't want to lose ourselves in any kind of thinking about evil or darkness, but we can even acknowledge that there are a lot of people thriving right now and people who are really in celebration and joy right now. If you're one of those people, I celebrate that for you. And if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, then I hope that what I have for you might bring some sustenance, some succor. So, when we're revisiting places where woman has been revered in the world and for a long period of time, so woman was revered in these places for a really long period of time before we've had all the changing times that have brought us through all of woman's experiences up to the present. So, when we're visiting those power places like that, we're getting to feel at an energetic level, at a vibrational level, what it is for woman to be in her right place. And by that, I mean she is honored, she is revered, she as life giver is revered, she is seen as life giver, she is known as life giver. And that, of course, applies to women who have children and who give birth, but also women who, for whatever reasons, have not given birth, still have those kinds of abilities and capacities within them. At an esoteric level, the womb births so many things. It births our creative projects, our businesses, our ideas. So the womb mysteries are deep, deep, deep mysteries. And those were held as sacred to woman during those times. And again, she was revered because of it. And I think men instinctively knew that they were dealing with a creature who could bleed for a week of every month and not die. And that was huge. So if you think about, our brains, our limbic system, our nervous system has not really evolved all that much since cave times, since cave people times. So in cave people times, for a man to witness that power in a woman, that cycle in a woman, she bleeds every month. She starts at a point in time and that goes on for a long period of her life. And then she grows big and she births out another human and she feeds it from her body. We today don't really acknowledge the true power of that. But people in those times really, really would have. It would have been such a mystery to them. And we have at this point in time dissected it so much that we understand it from an intellectual and intelligence level. But at a biological level and in the caveman brain where you would not have had that kind of medical and intellectual knowing about this process, we would have been seen as creatures of magic, creatures of mystery, the big mystery. And we are an embodiment of the earth herself, because the earth births things and then they fall and they die, and then she births again and then they fall and they die, right? So the fact that we have that cycle inside of ourselves sets us apart from men. And I have a lot to say about that. I'm going to be sharing that with you in the times to come. But what I want to say about it today is that when we look at woman just from that perspective, we see several things. We see our power, for one thing, a power that we often are not super in touch with, and come to feminine mystery schools or feminine practices to learn to be in touch with that power. And a lot of us in the process of reclaiming that power can be very afraid of it for good reason. And again, those are things I want to talk more to you about in my offerings to you in the time to come. But just to say that we would know our power, and we would know our connection to the mystery. We would know ourselves as spiritual liaisons between the other world and the physical world, between the spirit world and the material world. And we would have been seen as that. We would have been acknowledged as that, and we would have been upheld as that. We would have been protected as that, and we would have been worshipped as that. And I believe, as do many women who walk the path of priestess and the path of our woman's awakening spirituality in our world, and this is not new, right? We know this has been going on for some time now. We have a lot of women who've walked the path before us that we can pay honor and homage to and give thanks to for laying a path that we can now pick up and walk ourselves in a less difficult way than it would have been for them. And we have women coming up behind us in younger generations doing the same, right? So we're all here as a collective together exploring what can we learn from what we know about those times, and how can we apply that to our lives today? And then what is our role as a spiritual woman, a spiritually awakened or awakening woman in the times on our planet today? So we know a lot at this point about what the roles of woman, spiritual woman, were in those times. And there were many roles, right? Just like there are many roles today. So there would have been the priestesses, for sure. There would have been the oracles, and sometimes those were the same woman in one role, and sometimes they were separate. There would have been their handmaidens, those who served them and helped them do their work, who circled around them to help them do that. There would have been the temple dancers. There would have been the bull jumpers, and those might have been male, or they might have been females with the males. There was so many kinds of roles that woman played in the spiritual setting of the time. And so many of those roles that women are claiming again for themselves now and learning for themselves now. And I think that as we're in the process of learning, we're still, refining it and figuring it out. And I think we have to be very considerate about the sources that we choose to learn from. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. I recently saw a promotion from a woman who's very well known in the Tantra community, and I have a lot of respect for her and her work in the Tantra community, who is leading a webinar titled "All Women Are Priestesses." And while I'm very excited to see the word priestess being brought into greater and greater view and more formats, I think that's inaccurate. And here's why I think, in fact, I know that's inaccurate, and here's what I mean by that. Priestess is a title, it's a role, and it's a title that is born out of an initiatory journey, meaning a woman takes one initiation after another, after another, after another. And a lot of priestesses that I know in this, in my circles and in my trainings are women who are self-ordained priestesses, meaning that their initiations just showed up for them naturally along their path. This is true for me. And then there are many women I know who have had deep esoteric priestess trainings to become a priestess, to be able to claim that title for herself. And then there's every kind of configuration in between. So I, for sure, have had my priestess trainings with women that I revere, as well as the many initiations that my path just naturally presented to me. And I think that many women serve many kinds of roles that resemble the power of a priestess. However, in the same way that not every Jewish person is a rabbi just because they're Jewish, not every woman is a priestess just because she's a woman. So why am I sharing all of that? I'm saying let's be aware of the teachers that we choose and what we choose them for, and let's be clear about our words and how we speak them. And let's also be clear that every woman can be a spiritual woman and a spiritually awakened or awakening woman, even if she's not claiming the role and title of priestess. What is the role of priestess? It is to be in service to something greater than herself in her community. That's a very simple way of putting it. But what I'm trying to say is that for you, maybe you do identify as priestess and you do feel that's a role that you have claimed for yourself and taken on, or maybe there are many other roles that you play in your life that maybe aren't that, but are equally as important in the awakening of woman and the reclaiming of womanhood on our planet. So many of the things that we did together in ceremony in our week in Crete, I think are worth sharing with a bigger number of women in the world. And that's actually part of our intention. We come together in those places and we share our gifts and we share our craft and we share our magic and we share what are we doing in our communities to inspire each other, to learn from each other, and to bolster ourselves, to strengthen ourselves so that we can go back out into the world and share in our communities what we're learning, what we know, what we're growing, and how can we help each other do that? How can we disseminate information? How can we inspire each other? How can we help each other feel our own power and claim that power for our own lives? And this doesn't mean that a woman will then need to become a priestess or become in service in, her community in some way. Maybe, she's in service to her nuclear family unit. That is another role of woman. That's a super important role, and on and on and on and on. So there is no one right way, and there is no thing that we're suggesting a woman needs to fit into. But what we are suggesting is that woman has tremendous power, and many of us have been disconnected from it for many kinds of reasons throughout our lives. And this journey, the journey of being an awakened woman, a spiritual woman in our world, is about claiming that power in all the ways that we can, as many times as we need to, in as many configurations as we can, and being clear about how we're claiming it and what that is. To that end, I am offering a free webinar coming up. I've been feeling really inspired to share with you so much about what happened in Crete, what I gained, what I gleaned, what woke up in me, what moved in me, as well as others around me, including the women on the pilgrimage I was leading. And my daughter attended with us this time. She's an amazing human being, amazing young woman who has had the great fortune to grow up in goddess community. So she's sort of been infused with these things all of her life, but she has her own journey with it and her own way of being. But all of her insights and the things that she witnessed and experienced in all of this. So I'm offering a free webinar because I'd love to get to share all of that with you, and specifically as a way of talking about what is the role of woman in turbulent times. So given the recent outcome of the US elections, I know that there are a lot of women in my sphere who are very upset, from enraged to feeling depressed or defeated, and for good reasons. I also know women in my sphere who really are happy with that outcome and feel that that's a good way forward. And I'm not really offering something that's about challenging our political system, or that's about trying to solve anything on the political level, but more I am excited to talk about what we can be, who we can be as woman, as spiritual woman in our world as it is today. So I'm offering this as a safe space to bring concerns about what's happening in America right now and how that affects other people in the world. I'm talking to a lot of people from other parts of the world who are also very concerned about that and wondering, hey, ladies, Americans, what are you doing over there? But regardless of your political viewpoints, that's not really what the webinar is that I'm offering. It's really more about, let's come together where in a safe space where we can talk about our concerns about that if that's what's present in the field. But most importantly, we can also talk about how do we be with it? How do we be who we are and hold the vision of what we know woman is and what womanhood can be, as an influence in our world. What is our role as a spiritual woman in turbulent times, in a turbulent world? How do we be our most awakened, magnetic, feminine, empowered self that shines a light into a world that needs our light? So that's the premise of this webinar. Again, it's totally free. It's something that I'm offering from my heart for you. You'll see a link, a button below for you to be able to click on and sign up for that webinar if you'd like to join. I'd love to see you there. I'd love to commune with you. I'd love to share and have you be a part of this conversation. I hope for it to be a sparkling conversation where we get to be enlightening with each other and uplifting with each other, and not in a spiritual bypassing way. We're not denying any feelings. In fact, we're going to have some time to emote and just be with our feelings, because that's part of our superpower as women, right? But we're going to move through that into a brightening, a lightening, and a real clear discussion around, with some practical tools and some practical steps to take, and some practices for you to take into your world to stay strong, to keep our light shining bright, to be spiritual woman in our world as it is today. So again, I hope you'll join me. I have so much I'm excited to share with you in that way, and I'd love to hear where you are and what's happening for you in your world. Let's get together. Let's have a conversation. I've got a lot of material for you. Just click on the button and you'll get to that place where you can put your name in to attend that webinar. It will be recorded. So if you're not able to make it live, I will be sending out a recording about it. Love to see you there. And until then, sending you so much love.